Hey everybody, welcome back. And if you're new, my name is Chris. It is Sunday, March the 20th. I just got back into town at 2 a.m. this morning, and it has been a while since I've filmed. I think I haven't filmed a video in about 3 weeks, and I haven't posted a video in a couple weeks. And I know everybody's making videos about spring fragrances. In fact, my spring fragrance videos will be right around the corner. But there are a couple I wanted to make and finish before we started getting into the warm weather. If you are new to this channel, I currently live in the Midwest, and here we have a good couple months left of unpredictable and oftentimes very cold weather. So I'm not ready to put away my cold weather fragrances, my gourmands, my spicy fragrances, my woody fragrances, all those fragrances I love to wear in the cold weather. I'm still keeping several gourmand fragrances close by because it was cold this morning, it's a little bit chilly this evening, and those are the times I really like to wear fragrances that have a gourmand note. Tonight is a video I've wanted to make for about a year. It's a video about chocolate fragrances, or fragrances that have a prominent note of chocolate. Some of these fragrances I'm cheating just a little bit because the chocolate note or the cacao note isn't very prominent, but I really like the fragrance, or the fragrance is really special to me. On the other hand, there are a couple fragrances up here that I can assure you are going to be on the chopping block and will be decluttered soon after this video is made. But as I have said before, I think non-glowing reviews are sometimes just as helpful as glowing reviews. So I'm gonna give you my 2 cents on a couple fragrances that I really don't care for. And it will be a miracle if they are still in my collection within a couple weeks. So if you clicked on that thumbnail thinking you were going to get a video about chocolate fragrances, you are in the right place, and I'm going to dive right in. So my first fragrance of the day is a very chocolate forward fragrance, and it is by Gallagher Fragrances, and it is aptly named Wicked Good. Now this fragrance has only 3 notes, and I think they're listed right on the bottle, but it has chocolate, Madagascar vanilla, and tonka bean, and this is just simplistic chocolate goodness. It's mildly linear, and I really believe that I can smell all 3 notes that are listed. I'm sure there are more notes listed, but I definitely smell the notes listed. The chocolate in here is like a milk chocolate. It is like a milk chocolate bar. The tonka bean, I think, gives it a little bit of some depth. It does get powdery on me in the dry down, and as it dries down, that's when the vanilla comes out on me. So it starts off really strong, really chocolatey, and then it kind of moves into a chocolatey vanilla, and then it becomes basically a more vanilla prominent fragrance, but still has chocolate nuances. On me, it's fairly quiet. I can get about 4 to 6 hours, and it's not gonna overpower really anybody around you. I love the cute little bottle. The small bottle is perfect for me because this is not a fragrance that I pull for often, but when I'm really in the mood for a gourmand, when it's colder outside, there's something just so incredibly comforting about this really nice, simplistic chocolate beauty. So the next fragrance definitely wins Prettiest Bottle Award. I discovered this fragrance last year when I did the discovery set for S Strikes the Notes, and that is a small Italian niche house. It has a really fun and interesting backstory. The founder of the fragrance house wanted to create fragrances based on the different personalities of his granddaughter, E-S-S-E. The fragrance that I hold in my hand is called Miranda. Now look at that beautiful bottle. It's a beautiful blue glass bottle. But this fragrance is supposed to personify the part of S personality that is mysterious, I think elegant and sophisticated. And I definitely would say that this fragrance meets all of those characteristics. Now, it took me a while to buy the bottle because this fragrance, to me, smells very similar to 2 other fragrances that I already own in my collection, namely Intense Cafe by Montal and Gentle Fluidity Gold by Francis Kurkdjian. So I thought it was going to be a little bit redundant to have this in my collection. But the more I sampled it, the more I wore it, I did find some subtle differences between the three. And frankly, I fell in love with the bottle and really wanted it in my collection. Do you need all three? Absolutely not. I think one of the three kind of covers that fragrance profile, but yet here I am with the bottle in hand, and I'm super, super happy. So the reason why I'm showing this tonight is because Miranda has a note of chocolate. Now, how is this different from the other two that I spoke of? This one is I would describe this as a sweet, powdery, musky vanilla with rose and chocolate. It is a little bit spicier than the other two. I believe there is, what is the spice that I pick up? It is star anise, that's it. There's star anise in here. I believe there's licorice in here, which is a note I really don't care for. I really don't pick up a heavy licorice, thankfully, and it's strictly gourmand in the beginning. At first, I get just sweet gourmandy notes. I definitely get a vanilla, a musky, sweet, powdery vanilla. The chocolate's not very prominent, I'm gonna tell you, but as the kind of the gourmandy notes fade, maybe about a half an hour into the fragrance, I can start to pick up some floral notes like rose. Rose is really the only flower that I smell, maybe other than heliotrope, which I think basically gives it a little bit of powderiness. It is still sweet as it dries down. So the rose comes out, but I still pick up vanilla. It's a little bit spicy. It's not super strong, but it is sweet. And I think that Gentle Fluidity Gold and I think Intense Cafe are sweet fragrances. To me, they're sweet. So in my opinion, you do have to enjoy sweet fragrances to enjoy this one. I do get a solid 4-6 hours on this one, and it has a moderate projection and sillage. I've worn it a couple times to work, and I think I went light on the trigger because I'm a little bit wary of wearing sweet gourmands to work. Didn't really hear anything, so I don't think it's super overpowering. I could probably go a little bit heavier on the trigger next time I wear it, but I'm so thrilled that I have this little beauty in my collection and has a really nice subtle note of chocolate. I do have a subscriber who left me a comment, I think when I did the house review, that when she wears this one, it dries down to a chocolate mint fragrance, which sounds amazing. It hasn't done that for me yet, and I won't be disappointed if it does that. So Miranda by S strikes the notes. The next one is a fragrance I have talked about a couple times. If you have been following me, you know that I love this fragrance. It's just fun deliciousness. And it is Chocolate Greedy. This is probably my most chocolatey fragrance besides Wicked Good that I have. This is just chocolatey, vanilla, powdery goodness. To be honest, I don't really concentrate on the notes in here because to me, it smells like a combination of hot cocoa mix, as if you just opened a packet of hot cocoa, and that smell that you get, that really powdery, dusty smell that you get right when you open it, I get that, and I get a Cocoa Puffs, like a Cocoa Puff cereal. If you took hot cocoa and Cocoa Puffs and combined them, this is what you would get in a bottle. This has other notes. I think there are dried fruits. I think there's bitter orange, maybe a little bit of coffee, but basically I get a wonderful milk, chocolate, hot cocoa mix, and Cocoa Puffs. It's just, for me, I really enjoy it. It is a fun fragrance. It is a fun, whimsical gourmand fragrance. If you do not like your gourmands, if you don't like your fragrances to smell like food or dessert, stay far away from this because it really because it smells like something you would consume, that you would eat or drink. But it's just super fun. It's super delicious, you know. And like all Montel fragrances, it really performs well. You want to go light on the trigger. I never spray more than 6 times just because a lot of people don't like really sweet gourmands. They don't like something heavy and sweet that smells like food. So I kind of take it easy and just enjoy it for myself. I'm going to try and get several wears out of this before I put this away for the summer. And if you love a chocolatey fragrance, this one is hard to beat. The next one is a fragrance I've had in my collection the longest. Not this bottle in particular, but this is my 3rd bottle. My 2nd bottle went kind of bad because I was stupid and stored it improperly. and I could tell that it just kind of went funky. But in my mind, this is very close to a perfect vanilla fragrance for many, many reasons. It has a lot of depth to it. It has a lot of character to it, and it is Orchidee Vanille. And this has a lot of sentimental value to me as well, because I got this as a Christmas gift right when it came out. So I always associate this bottle with a time when I had a really cute little, teeny little infant. So I think that, in addition to it is a spectacular fragrance, is why I love it so much. So if you have never heard me talk about it and you've never smelled it, it smells so good. It is a beautiful vanilla, but it has a little citrusy touch, like a little bit of a orange rind, like a bitter orange rind up at the top. There are some indistinguishable florals. I know it says orchid. I've said this before. Orchid is a fantasy note. They make orchid to smell like a kind of a spicy, exotic floral. So it is a little floral. It's like a deep, dark, slightly spicy floral, but the floral is definitely in the background. It's this beautiful, a little bit of orange, vanilla. It's got chocolate. It's got like a dark chocolate. The chocolate in here is a dark chocolate. This little bit of floral note. It just hits all the right notes for me. It's a complex fragrance, but it's not too complex, and it still has a beautiful simplicity to it. I know a lot of people get frustrated with the lack of longevity. I frankly don't have a problem with it. I wear this mostly when it's cold, and here in the Midwest, I'm always wearing sweaters, a lot of times turtlenecks, so I do wear this a lot on my clothes. I spray this on my bathrobe, and if you spray this on your clothes, it's going to last 4 days. But a fragrance that I can assure you will be in my collection for years and years and years to come. I love this beautiful vanilla fragrance with a lovely note of dark chocolate. The next one you've only heard me speak about one time. I think this was my summer date night fragrance, and I have a little bit of guilt talking about it because it is discontinued, but it has a really nice cacao or a chocolatey note to it, and it's a very special fragrance to me because this was the fragrance I chose for my wedding day and honeymoon years ago. And I picked it up in a TJ Maxx. Listen, I was a student back then. I had zero money. And so I went to TJ Maxx with the sole purpose of picking out a fragrance for my wedding. I found this perfume there, bought it blindly, took it home, and I was so happy. And what was interesting is when I sprayed it, my spouse now absolutely loved it. And it's one of the very few fragrances that when I wear it, he can recognize it. He says, "Oop, you're wearing Rodier." And with that, it is called Rodier by Rodier. In fact, when I purchased this, I think it had become discontinued, and that's why it was at TJ Maxx. But this is a very unique fragrance. It smells a little bit vintagey, just a touch. I think it's from the 2000s, early 2000s. It is super unique, and I have nothing like it. So I would describe it as an ambery floral. I haven't worn it in a long time. Gosh, when I smell it, it just brings back all those memories. I literally think of the day I got married and spending a week in Hawaii. This reminds me of Hawaii. Isn't that interesting how fragrances do that? They can transport you to a memory quicker than any other sense. But I believe, I haven't looked up the notes. I can't remember last time I looked up the notes. I think this has a bunch of florals, like 5 or 6 different florals. But the florals are really kind of smothered or overtaken by these richer notes. I believe there's sandalwood in here, there's cacao, there's an amber note or an amber accord. This has labdanum in it, and I believe coffee. But it is super, super unique. It's very pretty. It's very powdery in the dry down. I wore this, I would say, maybe 3 months ago to work. I went into the break room, like where our little microwave is, and a woman was standing there and says, "Oh my gosh, you smell really good." And by that time it was, it was well into the dry down. So I think in the dry down, basically what you get is an ambery, a powdery ambery vanilla with a touch of florals. It has great sillage, great lasting power, great longevity. This thing lasts pretty much all day on me. And I hate to talk about it because it is discontinued, but I did want to just mention it briefly. A special lovely fragrance with a little bit of chocolatey cacao to make it one of the most unique fragrances I own. And the next 2 that I talk about are 2 fragrances that I'm quite sure will be decluttered within the next month. but it was worth talking about them because they both have a noticeable note of chocolate in them. The first one is from a set I picked up this summer from Younique. I heard about this from another YouTuber, Greta Beth, told me about this line, and I'm super happy that I picked up this travel set because I was going to give it away as a Christmas gift and I forgot. I had, put it under my bed, didn't think about it, and completely forgot. But I do love this set, this little discovery set. I think these are 10 ml bottles. These fragrances are gorgeous. The only one I really don't like is the one I'm going to talk about. Where did it go? And it is the one called Chocolate Makes Me Happy. And when I saw the title, I thought, oh my gosh, how could I not like this fragrance? Because here it is in the little travel. How could I not like this fragrance? I love chocolate. But this, I will say this one didn't make me happy when I smelled it. This has chocolate in it, but it is completely overpowered by a very strong, sweet, florally lavender. The lavender in here does not smell like a lavender essential oil, which I love. If you've ever smelled like a lavender essential oil, it's very aromatherapy. It smells really nice. It has a little bit of a soapy quality. The lavender in here smells exactly like a body wash that you would find in Bath & Body Works in the men's section. And I really do. I've bought basically all the different body washes they have in the men's section because I give them as gifts for my family. I have several brothers and several men in my life, in my family. So I like to give those as gifts. And there is a very clear shared DNA in those body washes. They smell good, but there is a definite, it's like a little, like an ambery aromatic scent to them, and then plus whatever. So if it's bourbon, it's an ambery aromatic body wash with a little bit of a boozy note. This one would be, the lavender in here is like a lavender body wash in the men's department. It's very sweet. It's a little bit artificial and very floral. So it completely wipes out the chocolate. You can get the chocolate right up front, but immediately it's like punched in the face by this lavender. And if you like your aromatic notes, if you like lavender, I enjoy lavender, but to me, the two don't go together. They compete with each other. The chocolate in here is very pretty, but is overtaken by the lavender. Fortunately, that florally aromatic lavender thing fades. It fades in about a half an hour to an hour. And what you're left with is a sweet, ambery, musky dry down. So it's like a sweet, musky, ambery dry down. There are just a little bit of citruses in here. They kind of hang around for a while, but the dry down is a very sweet, ambery fragrance. The chocolate kind of washes away. So if you're really looking to get this fragrance because of the chocolate note, do not blind buy it. And I do love the Younique line. I do like pretty much everything else in this line, and I love the Fragrance Crush on Me, and I just had that in my caramel video, but and these are very strong perfumes. These are like extrait de parfum, so these last forever. So there's no problem with projection, longevity, performance, all that's great. It's just not the chocolate that I was hoping for. So the next one is, fortunately, the other one I only bought in a travel size, and it is Matcha Meditation by Maison Margiela. This one is, I don't like it at all. In fact, today was the last day I wore these two. I wore them on each arm, and I've worn these each 3 times, and I think at least the time before I wore them on each arm. And it just was not a good thing. Both of these fragrances I don't love together, and it was really kind of overpowering, and I really wanted to change my shirt, but I kept it on, and I frankly got a little bit nauseous. This one has an opening that I abhor. It's a terrible opening. The opening, I think it has, obviously it has like, green tea, like matcha tea. If you've ever had that, it's very earthy. It's powdery. It's very earthy green. I don't have a problem with that smell, and I actually kind of enjoy it when I'm drinking tea because it feels very natural and healthy. But That combined with chocolate, like a milk chocolate, smells terrible. It almost smelled like you took a seaweed and a Tootsie Roll. This chocolate is a Tootsie Roll chocolate. It smells exactly like a Tootsie Roll. And that greenness in the beginning, which is supposed to smell like matcha tea, smelled like seaweed. It smelled like you took Tootsie Roll and wrapped it in seaweed. It's just not good, at least to me. The crazy thing is that this one takes a complete turn. That goes away, and then it becomes like a nice green tea with a little bit of citruses and a little bit florals. I don't know how that works, but it does become a completely different fragrance. Maybe a half an hour in, it's a little bit dusty. I get a dustiness to it. Florals, I'm betting jasmine's in here. I'm pretty sure I smell jasmine. So it's a jasmine-y floral, and not the type of jasmine that I really care for. And I think that with kind of this green tea note, this really heavy, dusty green tea is just, forgive me for the pun, not my cup of tea. I can imagine lots of people love this, but I'm so off-put at the beginning, and it's almost headache inducing that it's hard for me to really fall in love with this fragrance. I think I don't really enjoy the opening, and it kind of ruins it for me, even though I do enjoy the dry down more. It's more of a quiet fragrance. I think I'm getting around 4 hours for this one. And oh, I forgot to mention, it has white chocolate in it, which I don't smell white chocolate. The chocolate that I smell is a Tootsie Roll, unless they're making Tootsie Rolls out of white chocolate now, which I don't think they are. So the chocolate note in here is supposed to be white chocolate. It's like a white chocolate Tootsie Roll. But this one, I will be probably decluttering it because it's just not my cup of tea. Absolutely not Blind Buy Safe. Nothing is Blind Buy Safe, as I have said many, many times in the past. But this one in particular is one that you would try first. These travel sizes are kind of handy, particularly if you don't want to buy the full bottle. And it worked out for me that I only got the travel size. So that is the white chocolate note in Matcha Meditation. The next one is definitely one of my fanciest fragrances, and I chose it because of the chocolatey or the cacao note. And it is Ti Amo by Roja. Now the story with this is that this was a gift, and I chose it out of all the other Roja fragrances because of the cacao note, and it just seemed like a really interesting fragrance. And I will tell you that I was very, very nervous when it arrived at my house because it was basically a blind pick, and I thought, oh goodness, what if I don't like it? That will be awkward. I was so relieved when I sprayed it for the first time and knew that it was a fragrance that I was going to really enjoy and cherish. This fragrance is very unique. I don't have anything else in my collection or wardrobe like it. I think it's really hard to describe. It has a zillion notes. It has tons of florals, like 5 or 6 floral notes. I think it has pineapple. It has aromatic notes, spicy notes, woody notes. But what drew me to this fragrance is the cacao, the vanilla, and the tonka. It had all these really interesting notes, but it had these beautiful gourmand notes, which gives it a real uniqueness. When you first spray this, it is a dense, powdery floral fragrance is the best way I can describe it. I think it has heliotrope in there, but I can't pick out any floral. There's all sorts of florals. I cannot pick out one specific floral, but it's heavily floral and very powdery. It has a very nostalgic vibe to it. There's something that reminds me of glamour, like old Hollywood glamour. I don't like to put ages on fragrances, but I will say that I have fragrances that are very youthful, very whimsical. This is a very serious, grown-up fragrance. Even though it starts off really densely floral with, I think, a little bit of fruit in there, maybe pineapple, very densely floral and powdery. As it dries down, maybe an hour into it, and this is when I spray on my skin, I can pick up like a gourmandy vibe to it, the vanilla and chocolate, chocolatey vanilla. The chocolate's more subtle, I get more vanilla. Those sweet gourmand notes come out. I was a teensy bit afraid of some spices in here, cumin is in here. Thankfully, I pick up nothing sweaty. And the cumin in here, I think, just is blended with whatever woody note is in here, because when it dries down, it has this kind of this sweet, spicy woodiness to it. There's something sweet, spicy, and woody. Thankfully, the cumin does not come out strong, and it doesn't get sour on me. I've had some fragrances with cumin that smell great on me, and some fragrances with cumin that don't smell great. I think it really depends on what else it's blended with and how it reacts with your skin. But stunning, fancy fragrance. And when I'm done doing this video, this one's going to go back in the box. I do kind of treat this fragrance like a little princess. This next one up is one of my very all-time favorite gourmands. I absolutely love it. Spoken about it before. It's Al Contrario by Tiziana Terenzi. This is a gorgeous fragrance. It's not heavy on the chocolate or the cacao. This has cacao, vanilla, hazelnut, and ebony woods. And I think it also has orchid in here. It's a floral note. So the idea is al contrario, to the contrary. It has notes in here which don't seem to go together. But to me, this is absolutely spectacular. I love, one of my favorite fragrances right now. This is definitely in my top 10, especially for my gourmands. This to me smells like a vanilla pudding and a tiramisu cheesecake came together, and the chocolate or the cacao, chocolatey cacao that's in here would be like the chocolate that's dusted on a tiramisu or some sort of dessert. This is gorgeous. The negative is it does not last very long, unfortunately. So you have to overspray. You have to really overspray, and you're still not going to get anything more than 6 hours, but I don't care. It smells delicious. I love it. It's not going anywhere. The next one is not new to any of you. If you have been following me for a while, this could easily be a signature scent of mine, particularly in the colder months. In the colder months, this is just something that I want to smell like. It is class in a bottle. It's a classy, beautiful, timeless fragrance. It is Coromandel by Chanel. I love it. It has all the notes that I love. It has amber, it's incense, patchouli, and it has a sweetness from white chocolate. I definitely get that in the dry down. It's gorgeous, but you have to love all 4 of those notes or accords to enjoy this fragrance. It's heavy on the patchouli. You have to be a patchouli lover. I definitely get a little incense in here. It's a touch smoky. It is heavy on the amber, and it is sweet. It's sweet, particularly in the dry down, the sweetness from the white chocolate, but definitely a top 10 in my collection, and it has a lovely white chocolate note. The next one, I'm not gonna lie, is only in my collection because I absolutely love the bottle. Not a huge fan of the fragrance. In fact, when I first got the fragrance and I sprayed it, I don't think I've worn it in well over a year, but it is called Love Potion by Oriflame, and I don't know if you can see this bottle. It's this beautiful red glass, but I would pretty much put up with anything because this bottle is so darn unique. But the notes in here, in fact, I haven't worn it in a year and a half. I'm gonna have to look up the notes, so hold on just a second. So the notes in here are rum, ginger, cacao, coffee, tangerine, lily, chocolate, and sandalwood. But and let me get a little bit of a refresher. I remember just getting a blast, like a heavy blast of alcohol in the beginning, and a little bit of ginger and maybe a little bit of chocolate. Actually, the alcohol is not as bad as I remember. Definitely getting citruses, definitely getting ginger. Yeah, that tangerine, gingery, citrusy thing. I actually think I'm starting to smell a little bit of chocolate. That could be my mind. But I think this one, the dry down is when you smell the chocolate. It's not a super heavy chocolate fragrance, but it is a fragrance that, actually it's not as bad as I remember. It's not bad. Gingery, citrusy, a little bit florally, and with a little chocolate dry down. So, I'll be honest, I can't remember the longevity. I can't remember anything about the performance or longevity. I apologize for that. And I think this was like less than $30. This one I'm keeping because I love the bottle, and honestly, it's not as bad as I remember. It's actually decent if you like those notes. And the last one is a fragrance that I had on my wish list for many, many years, like years and years and years. I just forgot about it. And then recently, I think 2 years ago, bought a bottle when it came out with its new packaging. And I don't think I've worn this in over a year. And it is called, what is it called? It's got a new name. It's called Pink Marc de Champagne Truffle by Panna London. I love this cute little bottle. But this, I know exactly what this smells like. This smells like a chocolate raspberry truffle with a little bit of a boozy note. I have a sweet tooth. My very favorite chocolates are Teutsch chocolates. I've been to the big stores in California. There's one in Chicago. There's one in New York. I've been to all of them. And I always, if I'm in those areas, I always go to the Teutsch chocolate store and get truffles. I'm a big truffle fan. And this fragrance smells exactly like their chocolate raspberry truffle. And this has, like I said, just a little bit of booziness to it. But if you like to smell like that, you cannot beat this fragrance. And maybe it's because I just have so many other fragrances. And if it's chocolate versus vanilla, I tend to always pull for the vanilla, even though I do enjoy chocolate. But chocolate's very comforting. I enjoy it also. And I think my collection has just gotten so large that some of the fragrances that I've had have just kind of gotten pushed to the back. But yeah, I definitely have more time to wear this. Again, it's not going to get hot until June here, so I'll probably put this towards the front of my dresser to give it a good workout before I have to put it away. Now, if my memory serves, this is kind of a quiet fragrance and the lasting power is moderate. But again, on these sweet, chocolatey gourmand fragrances, I always take it easy because I'm very cognizant. I don't want to overpower or make anybody sick who's around me. So I tend to wear these. If I'm going to wear them out, I tend to underspray. If I'm going to wear them when it's just me or I'm running errands or it's just me hanging out of the home, then I can kind of go to town. And I do remember at least lasting, I can get at least a half day out of this one. And I do like to layer this one with chocolate body cream. So that will be it for my chocolate fragrances. So that was it. I think I kind of ran the gamut with chocolate fragrances, some very fancy, serious, glamorous, high-end fragrances with a chocolate note, and some fun, whimsical, less serious fragrances with a chocolate note. And since you're watching this video, I am guessing you are a fan of gourmand notes and a fan of chocolate notes. And I would love to hear what your favorite fragrances with a note of chocolate are and what did I miss. I love to hear it in the comment section below. Thank you again for sticking around. Thank you for watching me. Thank you for clicking on that thumbnail. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one, which will be in about 10 minutes.